everybody, Dawson here, and today we are talking about horizontal and vertical lines. So, those things that go up and down and side to side. So these are not your typical graphing lines where they go at an angle of some sort. These are straight up and down or flat as a road. So that's the topic for today. And, how do you graph a line that doesn't have two variables in it? So this is kind of one of the things that's weird about this, is that the equation doesn't have two variables in it. So when you have horizontal and vertical lines, you only have one of the two variables. So let's take a look at how this works. All right, graphing horizontal and vertical lines. If you get an equation like y equals -3, and you're asked to graph it, you're stuck with the idea of, well, this is y equals, sure, but the whole mx plus b thing is missing. So I guess I could say this is my b, because y equals 3. That's kind of like b. There's no x attached to it, so sure, we can call that the b. So you can go ahead and plot that point. My y-intercept is going to be -3, so I'll plot that point right there. Whoa, that's a really bad dot. And so that's great, but then there's no slope. I don't know what my rise and my run is. I don't know where to go from there. So the way I always think about it is, when I get an equation like this, y equals -3, is that no matter what x is, y is -3. So yes, when x is 0, y is -3. That is true. But also, when x is 4, y is going to be -3. And when x is -5, y is going to be -3. And when x is positive, whatever this is, 8, it's going to be -3. So no matter what, positive 2x is going to be -3y, negative 2x is going to be positive or -3y. So it doesn't matter what your x is, y is always going to be -3, and that creates this horizontal line which goes side to side. So I can pull up my little line tool here and make ourselves the graph of this line, and that's it. I just graphed it. It's that simple. So most people have a hard time remembering, okay, they see a one variable equation, which one's horizontal, which one's vertical. Start with what this says. It says that y equals -3. Plot that point first, and then say, okay, so but if x is 3, then that means y has to be -3 too. And so constantly just make these a few dots and you're all good. Okay, so that's all well and good, but then you're going to be asked, well, what's the slope of this line? And this is where it gets a little bit trickier. And what I'm going to say is, just like when we have a diagonal line, you pick any 2 points in the line, and you want ones that cross at these little crosses here, so you have exact values. Pick any 2 of those points and do your rise and run for those 2 points. So for example, if I was to look at these 2 points right here. So the 2 points between this point and this point, my rise is going to be 0. It doesn't go up at all. It stays flat. So my rise is 0 and my run is 3. And so it's my rise over my run. 0 divided by 3. And so now, how do I simplify this down? Well, if I have nothing and I break it up into 3 pieces, how much is in each one of those pieces? And the answer is nothing. So you'll always get a slope of 0 when you have a y equals -3 or a horizontal line graph. So when you graph that horizontal line, you're going to get a slope of 0. But again, it's hard to remember which one's which, and so when you are doing this, I strongly recommend not memorizing it, but simply getting 2 points, look at the rise and the run, and say, oh, right, 0 divided by any number is 0, therefore my slope is 0. All right, let's look at an x equals, though. So how do I graph this? Again, my recommendation last time was to say, if x equals 5, I go to the x-axis, and I find 5, and I plot that point first. So that's my first step. Now, the other variable is y. So if y is 2, x is 5. If y is -3, x is 5. If y is -6, sorry, this is -7, then x is 5. No matter what, x will always be 5. So we're going to get a vertical line on this one. So I'll come in and I'll graph this line. Here's my vertical line graph for that particular. Let me make this pretty and colorful that way. Oh, I didn't do it. That way we can see it stand out a little bit. And so that's what we're looking at. We've got a line here that is x equals 5. So this is the graph of the line x equals 5. So slope, once again, let's look at the slope. We'll take any 2 points, and we will, let me pull up my pen here, take any 2 points. Let's take this one here, and I'm just picking these at random. Doesn't matter which ones you pick. It'll always work the same. My rise over my run. So my rise in this case is 4, and my run is 0. All right. So in this case, I have a rise of 4 and a run of 0. Okay, if you have a calculator handy, and hopefully you do, and if you don't, go get one. Pause the video, go get one. And I want you to take 4 and divide it by 0 and see what you get in your calculator. Okay, you probably got something like error or no data set or something like that that says basically not allowed. Math does not like this operation. It does not like dividing by 0. And if you think about it, what does that mean? I'm going to divide something into 0 pieces? That doesn't really make any sense. I mean, you can divide something into 1 piece. You can divide it into 2 pieces or 3 pieces or 4. But dividing it into 0 pieces, I'm not sure what that means exactly. And in fact, math doesn't really know how to deal with that. So at least in terms of the level of math that we're working with, this is not okay to do. Now, admittedly, this is a little bit of a cop-out on the math folks side of things, but you're just going to have to deal with it for now. I'm sure somebody who does really hard math knows that there's some way around dividing by 0, but for the level that we work with, we consider this to be not okay, and so you have to memorize a term. This is just full-on memorization. You have to say that when you have a vertical line like this, or an x equals, any equation that's x equals, will have an undefined slope. Oops, defined slope. So you literally say undefined. So if on the test, you will say that if you are dividing by 0 for your slope, it's an undefined slope. And basically that means that math hasn't figured out what the heck that means, and we don't really have a slope for it. Obviously it has a slope. It's really steep. It's a vertical cliff. So if you were to go skiing, you'd probably die if the cliff was too big. So undefined in terms of math concepts. So that's graphing horizontal and vertical lines, finding the slopes of those lines. Hope this video helps, and if you've got any questions, just let me know. Take care. See you later.